Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Oh, fuck, man. You can't see us right now. You're just like, what happened? Where's my vision? Did I lose
shots.
Am I Mark? Am I Matt Murdock?
Have I just been canceled by Netflix?
Is that why I can't see? Was I hit by a radioactive isotope? No, you were hit with cancellation. Yeah, no, man. We couldn't get to the bar to do Fat Man Beyond live, so we figured we had to rush here to the house, do a home show like old school, talk about this movie that we love so much, man. We're gonna talk about Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse, the movie least likely to wind up being perhaps my favorite movie of 2018. I ain't gonna bury the lead.
Yeah. Let it out.
I fucking love this movie. And I had this year, man. I always liked Spider-Man.
Who doesn't like Spider-Man?
Come on, we're always rooting for him. This movie made me love Spider-Man on a Batman type level. Oh my God, it just shows you any character in the right hands, man, could be a transformative experience. I love this movie. We're gonna go deep on it, of course, but I've already said I couldn't hold back. I had to get it out there, man. I had to come once so that I could work it up now and fucking to the better nut.
We'll take our time.
Yes. Where is
this one was for me.
Do your first nutting. Let's see you do it.
I could not have foreseen a year in which not only would we get two giant studio films with black superhero leads, but that the one of them that is my favorite movie of the year was not Black Panther.
Interesting. Yes.
You know,
God, I always forget that was fucking February.
I know this year, fucking year of all years,
it's been packed. And that seems like a lifetime ago, particularly because we've had Avengers, Infinity War, because we met T'Challa, and then he fucking vaped away. That all happened in 1 year. So fucking nuts.
I know. But I saw I saw the trailer. I think when it came out over the summer, and I didn't know what to expect because I despite my long relationship with Miles Morales, I've never actually read any of the Miles Morales comic books.
Right. Why do you have a long? Oh, because you wrote about him, and because Donald Glover. And
because I wrote that story for IO9 in 2010. Right. I think this was wondering why Spider-Man had to be a white guy. And then in the comments for that story, somebody suggested Donald Glover, and then Donald Glover gets wind of it, and he's out there like wearing Spider-Man jammies on Community, and he sort of embraces it and resists it because there were death threats, as I understand. I mean, I got like 3 or 4 just for writing an article wondering why he had to be a white guy.
Seriously?
Yeah.
People were just like, you should fucking die for saying that.
Yeah, it's like, because Stan wrote it that way, because that's the way it's supposed to be, because it's always been that way. And if you've got a problem with that, I'm sure there's you probably commuted in out of Manhattan somewhere. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll meet each other on the street. I can't be sure.
That is so fucked up.
All right, man, if you say so. But Glover got it far worse.
I mean, like, I don't know there's any character I'm that protective of where I'm like, where I'd even raise my voice to somebody, let alone be like, you might die at my hands for suggesting that it be something other than what I know it to be.
Yeah. Like they were motivated in a way.
This is like the cats that didn't like the Lady Ghostbusters movie.
Right. Or like, there's an Asian person in Star Wars. I don't understand. Maybe this lady should die. Or be privy to any number of awful sexual things.
Shit changes, kids. Like, just
the one
that's
constant
fine.
is change.
Here, but the beautiful thing is, like, that thing that you love, it's never going away. If you love the story, if you love Fearful Symmetry, that features a white Spider-Man fighting, Kraven, the White Hunter, and stuff like that, that ain't going away.
Nope.
You'll always have that. And it hasn't been obliterated from history or something like
They
that.
pulped every copy of it.
They haven't pulled it down like a statue that you never gave a fuck about before. Like this, it's always going to be there. Now there's just one more version. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. I believe the premise of that movie is there are many Spider-Mans.
There really are. Anybody can wear the mask.
And he can be non-white, and he can be a boy, and he can be a girl, and it can be a pig. I mean, that's what makes me fucking crazy. Like all before this movie, Peter Porker Spider-Ham existed. So somebody once said, hey, man, you know, you're a white god, Peter Parker. He's a pig now. And nobody threatened anybody's life over that.
Nope.
But somebody gone like, wouldn't it be interesting if this kid was black? I will cut you.
Yeah. It's like there was a stretch there in the comics where Thor was a frog.
Yeah.
It was like, did you have a problem with that? No, he's a frog. It's cool.
That could happen because Stan and Jack wrote it that way.
But what if he was a black frog? Fuck you!
There's no such thing as a black frog. And we're talking about the god of thunder, so shut up.
But yeah, and so Donald Glover sort of embraced it, and then Brian Michael Bendis also caught wind of it and said, hey, you know what? You're right. There is no reason why Spider-Man couldn't be a black guy. In fact, I have 2 adopted black children. Like, wouldn't it be great if they had a Spider-Man for them? And so he invented Miles Morales, you know. So
that came after your article.
That came after the article. Like, it all kind of spins out of the article.
As I sat there watching the movie, it's so weird. I sit in front of you, we talk, and I know we've talked about this, but as I sat there watching the movie, I sat there going like, they were really ahead of the curve with Miles Morales. About 30 years too late, but still ahead of like the curve. So much so that like, he was perfectly poised to be the lead of this movie.
Yep.
And I literally said to myself, I was like, wonder how this all got started. I'll have to look it up. Wow, that's fucked up. And so you never read the books?
I never really read the books. Like it came about in a time when like my bandwidth was very small and I was either like making shit or working or whatever it was. But my Marvel readership dropped off in a big bad way. And so I never, like, I knew a little bit about what Miles was and his world, but I was never a reader of that book. So I came to this with a knowledge of the character, but no knowledge whatsoever of what happens to that character.
Ditto.
And it was kind of glorious. And I remember just seeing that first trailer and just the look of it just blew me away.
That's what first sucked me in. I was like, wow, this looks really good.
Yeah. Like I was talking to a friend of the show, Zach Stens.
Oh yes.
Who said, I feel like I've seen something new.
I agree.
And it's been a long time since I've seen something new.
I agree.
And it's this weird merging of like, you know, 3D animation and 2D panel structure and dialogue boxes and thought balloons and all of these things.
Dude, they had my heart from that second. They released a clip of Peter Parker teaching Miles Morales to swing. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, he's going, now thwip it out and release, thwip and release. And on screen, every time they thwip, it says thwip.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, somebody fucking loves this shit. Like, this ain't a soulless cash grab.
No.
This was made with true affection.
There's sequences that, especially early on, which are like out of register.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a little bit blurry.
Yes.
Because that's how comics used to be when the printing presses were not fucking calibrated the right way and things were always a little off.
Right.
A little blurry. The dots, the color dots didn't match up. The sort of zipatone feel was always a little like ad hoc and just improvised.
Right.
This feels like a handmade movie.
Yeah.
By people who really, really, really love the capacity to what you could do. You couldn't make this movie 10 years ago.
They also, it seems like it's a movie that's made by people who grew up ingesting this shit the same way I did. Through a comic book.
Yeah.
The movie opens with the comic code seal of approval. You know, with the thundering boom as it hits the screen. And right then and there, I was like, "This is special. Like we're amongst friends here."
Yeah.
It takes you into the world of Spider-Man, a familiar Spider-Man. It's the first one we kind of meet, right?
Yeah. And
voiced by Chris Pine in one of my favorite performances of the year.
Yeah, he's really great.
I didn't know until the end of the movie it was him, but like this is the one that, you know, you think of when you think of the comics and you think of the TV show and the cartoon, you think of classic Spider-Man. He was always had the right thing to say, legit good lines, funny delivery, tired, you know, like not tired, like this shit's tired, but like exhausted because he's fighting. He called him Gobby. Mm-hmm. Green Goblin threw pumpkin bombs. Green Goblin was this oversized mutant version of the Green Goblin, but still everything about it was familiar. And the fucking like, there's only one Spider-Man and you're looking at him and the eye winks and stuff. All of it was like pitch perfect.
Yeah.
And spoilers, we're going to spoil the fuck out of this movie.
Oh, yes. I mean, you should go see it, but I hope you've already seen it.
And if you haven't, turn this off, go see it, because now we're going to get very spoilery. They kill that Spider-Man. Like,
real quick.
Oh, fucking fast. And they kill him after this gorgeous fucking sequence where the collider is launched. And this sequence and the character himself, the character that I walked away loving, like, you know, this movie was full of revelations for me, but Kingpin was fantastic. And, you know, we've had a fantastic Kingpin with Vincent D'Onofrio in the fucking Daredevil show and stuff. But their rendition of Kingpin looks like the one that Bill Sienkiewicz did for Daredevil Love and War. Mm-hmm. This gargantuan non-human being that, you know, with the head right in the middle. It looks like they pulled them from the pages of that and some of the graphics as well. The Super Collider sequence looks like a Bill Sienkiewicz painting.
Yeah, they even, I think there's some montage when I think they're doing the Kingpin various universes version of him. There's like covers from like Elektra Assassin.
Yes,
they just full out just give you the Sienkiewicz. They full out like, this is where we took it from.
Oh, that right then and there, I was like, so good. You chose wisely, and that's, you know, a fucking superhero story is only as good as strong as the villain. And they give you a strong villain who's villainous and, you know, criminal. Mm-hmm. This motherfucker shoots people and shit and kills Spider-Man, like with his own bare fucking hands and shit like that. And then sets up a fucking funeral for Spider-Man where he honors the death of Spider-Man.
Invites Mary Jane to come and speak at the funeral.
I mean, heartless fucking, like, truly villainous bullshit. And at the heart of the story is an emotional pursuit. Like, he even says, like, some things ain't about the money, Spider-Man. And Liev Schreiber is fucking genius as the Kingpin. He sounds so New York. I don't know, maybe it's me, but it looks like their rendition of Kingpin almost seems like Trump without the hair. And he sounds very New York, and like all of it, I don't know if they were going for, but maybe it was suggested, maybe I read something into it, but it's not. If you're sitting there going, "Oh, I don't like political movies," this ain't political. That might be my takeaway.
Yeah, no, but like a big sort of cartoonish buffoon who's got his name on his own building, who talks in an outsized New York accent. It's not a lot to look.
I mean, like, I'm not crazy,
surface.
Right? Like, I'm not.
You're not like string theory metal hat. Like,
I don't think I'm being controversial, and I'm sure you could go back in the roots of the character and see some DNA there, particularly in the '80s version of it or something. But there's underneath the darkness, there is this soul, this connection. There's a human reason why. Yeah, he's putting the world in jeopardy,
and it's a reason anybody can understand.
Oh my God, that thrilled me. Mm-hmm. Where I was just like, "Look, I love this shit, so I'll take it. He's doing it for the money. I'll take it because he just wants to destroy New York or Spider-Man. Like, I'll take any bullshit reason." But they gave you an emotional reason where it's just like he's trying to get his wife and kid back.
Yeah, he's opening up the multiverse so that he can steal.
Breathtaking. I'm almost about to cry just thinking about it. That is, I wonder how they felt when they hit that story beat, where they were just like, the reason Fisk is doing this is because he wants to get his wife and kid back, who he's quasi responsible for their death. You learn in flashback, he's fighting Spider-Man, and then Vanessa and his son Richard come in and see him for who he is, because he's always presenting. He's got a secret identity as well. Mm-hmm. Presents as Wilson Fisk to his family, presents as Kingpin to the underworld. So they see him for what he is, and they run away and get in a car, and they get into a car accident. So he has this real reason for hating fucking Spider-Man, and almost not justifiable, but like, when the movie opens with like the fucking death of Spider-Man at the hands of Kingpin, and it's a Spider-Verse movie. Hey, there's more.
We've already met Miles Morales at that point, because Miles is watching.
And we know he's about to be Spider-Man in a minute. He isn't, he's got the powers, but he doesn't do anything.
Right. He gets bit even before that.
Yeah. But I mean, they created one of the best villains in a Marvel anything ever. He goes shoulder to shoulder with Thanos.
Yeah.
And he's a fucking cartoon. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, his performance is so fucking human. Hats off to like the animators, hats off to the fucking performance, hats off to the writers.
Yeah.
And along those lines, the Prowler is an excellent fucking villain too.
Oh, he's great. It broke my heart.
What a heartbreakingly great story. So much so that Nick Cage's Spider-Man Noir is like, it's pretty hardcore secret origin.
Like, it's pretty hardcore, but it's also like, I didn't see it coming, but I totally should have seen it coming.
But you knew, right? Like, you knew those
know.
characters were related in the comics.
I
didn't know about, I don't know if they did that in the comics.
I don't know if they
died.
did it either, but once he died, because again, it's, you know, Prowler is Kingpin's henchman, sort of right-hand man, overall Mr. Fix-It dude, who wants Miles Morales.
Costume muscle.
Once Miles Morales as Spider-Man, you know, sort of emerges on the scene in his like ill-fitting suit, and he's got, you know, old fat Peter Parker by his side. Prowler gets turned on to this kid. And
even before that, like when Spider-Man is killed, Miles is there. Miles, we should go back to the beginning.
We're jumping all over the place. We're so excited.
Miles is a mixed race kid from Brooklyn. There's a wonderful moment where him and his uncle are under Alchemex, and he's like, Brooklyn! Like, that is such a New York kid thing.
I mean, and the entire vibe of this movie was so New York. It's so New York, and it's so specifically like Black New York. The music is all hip hop. Like, you know, once like they're going under the tunnels, and suddenly like B.I.G. like hypnotized.
Oh, when they start tagging, their mix like is well, they play his uncle. His uncle's of course older than him, so the mix on the tape, and it's a big old boom box with a cassette, is the music we grew up listening to.
It's fucking Biggie. It's Run DMC. It's Apache. It's awesome. And so when
it's a beautiful sequence.
It's a beautiful sequence. And even the beginning of the movie, one of my favorite parts happens right off the top, where they say, okay, there's some things you might recognize. Like, there's some things that you know before. This happened, and it's, you know, Spider-Man stopping the train, you know, with all of that stuff.
The mini origins that they do for like, okay, let's tell the story one more time.
Right.
My name is Peter Parker. I was bitten by a radioactive spider. For the last 10 years, I've been the one and only Spider-Man. And then they kind of walk through the career.
Right.
And it's a device they use to, like, it's at the start of every chapter when a new character is introduced, and Miles doesn't really get one until
very end.
Yeah, he gets his moment of truth, and then I thought that was a wonderful device, because they would slap the comic cover down and to be like, this is the story, and then like Spider-Gwen tells her story, and Spider-Man Noir tells his story and stuff. But when you finally get to the moment where Miles earns his cover and it slaps down, you're in tears. The whole fucking movie, I was in tears. Very emotional. Father-son stuff is really wonderful.
Yeah, and they do this
Family
thing
stuff
that I only thought about after the fact. But Miles Morales, his name is Miles Morales. His mother, I don't even remember what her name is in the movie, but she speaks to him in Spanish and English, kind of interchangeably. He only speaks back to her in English. And his father, his last name is not Morales. He's just his name. I can't remember. I should probably do this research, but his last name is like Jones or something. And so they set up this family in which you've got a father who is not Miles's natural father, but that love that they share, the bond that they have, is as deep and as rich as if they were blood. And it's not.
They're not related?
The last names are different. Like, I don't think Miles is that guy's son.
Aaron, is it Aaron Rodgers?
Could be.
This is the name of the Prowler?
Yeah.
So like that means the Prowler, his dad would... the Prowler's last name is not Aaron Morales or whatever.
Right. You know, and the dad's who's a cop, I think his badge says Jones or something on it. But just that relationship that they don't even talk about. They don't even sort of glance on, but it's deep and it's rich and it feels valid, and you know, it's what a modern family looks like. Which is, hey, maybe, you know, this is a different kid from a different father, but this is the new family unit, and the love is there, and it's deep, and it doesn't have the tension that you might expect from this kind of story, where it's, oh no, it's adoptive dad or whatever, mom got remarried, and this is new dad, stepdad, and he doesn't call him like Bill. in the way that a movie will always do. It's like, oh, hey, Bill, you can call me Dad. Sure, Bill. This is just a family. And it's wonderful.
It's weird. I hadn't processed it. I hadn't thought, but you're right. That would be his mom's last name.
Yeah.
Because his dad's name is not, it's not Officer Morales.
No.
I wonder what the story is there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And the fact that they don't even really comment on it.
It's kind of a nice thing.
It's kind of a nice thing. Like, that doesn't have to be a story.
Family. It's like, you don't got to be the kid's blood to be like, hey, man, you should make more of your life because you got a spark. Like, that's just...
Yeah, it's
parental thing.
And especially because so much of this movie does hinge on family. Like, the improvised family of the spider people.
Yes.
Who are all bonded by tragedy. The fact that, some of the turning points in this movie are just based entirely upon the bonds of family. Mm-hmm. When his uncle Aaron, who, spoiler again, is the Prowler, dies, like, it broke my heart. And then I realized I should have known this because every Spider-Man loses an uncle. That's the origin story.
Oh, fuck.
Like, they've all got to lose an uncle. That's how you make a Spider-Man.
Right.
And it's like the fact that I didn't see that coming was like, oh, man, this
you're right.
Killed me.
That's genius.
I should have seen it, but didn't.
Aaron Davis. Let's talk about, all right, so we establish that he's the... God, let's look. I gotta look now. Whereas Jefferson remarried, that's the ultimate incarnation of Prowler. This is from the Wikipedia. The ultimate, as in the Ultimate Universe, incarnation of Prowler is Aaron Davis, the uncle of Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and the brother of Jefferson Davis. Whereas Jefferson reformed by marrying Rio Morales, Aaron never came around and becomes the Prowler cat burglar. He breaks into the abandoned Oscorp lab to steal a small red box and other rare items from a safe, but Oscorp's genetically altered spider crawled into his duffel bag. Later, Miles visits his apartment and he's bitten by the spider. I remember that. So the origin of the movie is better.
Yeah, it's adjusted. It just happens to be a spider who's there. It's not.
And they're under Alchemax, and it's not Oscorp and stuff like that. After Miles passes out and regains consciousness, Jefferson forbids Aaron to spend time with Miles on account of his criminal life. During a visit to Mexico City, Aaron fights off the Mexican crime boss Scorpion. When his deal with Scorpion goes bad, he is detained by the authorities. Returning to New York, Prowler interrogates Tinkerer about Norman Osborn, blah, 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 blah. Oscorp. Spider-Man ultimately gets into a fight with Aaron that results in Aaron's gauntlets exploding, killing him, but not before accusing his nephew of being just like him. A year later, Spider-Man discovers that Aaron was hired to break into Oscorp by Philip Roxon and was revealed to be a criminal acquaintance of Turk Barrett and blah, 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 blah. So when Miles decides to sever that, Davis initially convinces Miles to assist in defeating Scorpion. However, Spider-Man comes to realize his uncle's exploitation. When Miles decides to sever their relationship, Aaron threatens to tell Jefferson and Rio of his nephew's secret identity. Spider-Man ultimately gets into a fight with Aaron that results in Aaron's gauntlets exploding. I like what they did in the movie much, much more.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
Yeah. And it also, boy, I didn't see it the way you said it, but you're absolutely right. You got to lose an uncle.
Yeah.
Although Penny Parker lost her dad. But it's like, yeah, that's way smarter.
Yeah, and have Kingpin do it. Like, and have it be a choice. Like, Aaron chooses. Prowler chooses not to kill.
There's an amazing moment where you're like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Like when he pulled his mask over his face again, I was like, oh, this is cold. Like,
it's going dark.
Yeah, like he's like, you're fucking Spider-Man. And those gloves are going to power up. So anyway, they introduce you to Miles Morales and his world, and he's on his way over to like a boarding school affair.
Yeah, the Vision Academy,
where you sleep there and shit.
Yeah, for like you'd sleep there for a week and then get to go back home with his folks.
In his world, I guess other kids would go there and just fucking stay there and stuff.
Right.
But he don't want to be there. He'd rather be at like Brooklyn Middle or whatever the fuck, standard school.
Yeah, which is weird. Like I was trying to figure out for myself, sort of what is the need that the movie answers in Miles Morales, because when you think about sort of mythic story, when you think about any storytelling, the story of a movie character, the story of a movie protagonist is over the course of that movie, the character should have some need that he needs to have filled. You know, like Luke Skywalker, his need is to go off and join the Rebel Alliance. His need is to get off that rock. His need is to find himself a place in the larger world. And it establishes that with him looking off at two sunsets. It says, I was supposed to go off to the Academy this year. It's like, well, you'll go next year. You know, we need you here, Luke. And so the movie answers that need. The movie puts him in the middle of, you know, intergalactic intrigue, and he fucking blows up the Death Star. Like, what is Miles's need? And is it to be exceptional, and he's not? Or is it to understand and embrace the fact that he is exceptional? And I think it's probably the second one, because he's pushing it away at the beginning. I don't want to go to this fancy academy. I just want to go to school with my friends. Like, but you're smarter than that. Yeah, but I don't want to embrace the fact that I am special. And so he pushes it away until he embraces it. And that's why he can't control his fucking venom stings, and he can't control his invisibility, because he's not embracing the fact that he is actually, and he had a spark even before he got bit by a spider.
Interesting.
I think that
there's a writer, ladies and gentlemen. I just sat there going like, spider movie good. Kept crying now. Boo.
Well, it was also helpful that we, you know, at least we saw this on the heels of a different superhero movie, which we'll talk about in a later episode.
True this.
But drawing the comparisons between the two and trying to figure out for myself why one works and one doesn't, was trying to diagnose what does he need? And yeah, Miles needs to realize that he's special. You know, Peter, as we discover in the movie, also has his own need, and it's to, you know, admit that you were wrong, admit that you don't know everything, and admit that if you can apologize, you know, to Mary Jane, then maybe you can have a chance at life.
Right.
Admit that you might not be the hero that you think you are.
Miles goes to school, but he don't like being at school, and his dad wants him to be better. There's really touching stuff with his dad driving him to school. You've all seen it in the trailer. It's funny, too. This movie is legit funny. You will laugh out loud. But it'll make you feel, it'll make you laugh. This is everything a fucking movie should be. Boy, it's escapism, because this shit could never happen in real life. No. None of it. None of this. I'm sorry, kids. I know there are people out there like, yeah, you could develop a web shooter. No. And
not you.
Yeah, it ain't happening. So, and if somebody's working on a super collider there to like break through the multiverse, like, I'll eat my hat. But I doubt none of this is fucking true. This is pure fantasy, and it's wonderful fantasy that makes you somehow want to be a better person when it's all done. Even though you can't possibly see yourself up there, but you can. It's a point. Anyone can wear the mask. They literally tell you at the end of the movie. So I don't know why it works, but fuck, it's magic.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that you know, like we talked about with Kingpin, the reasons why he does what he does are rooted in very real human sort of wants and desires. Like, I want my family back, and it's my fault that they're gone, and I'm going to fix it by any means necessary. If I have to ruin the world to do it, I'm going to get those two people back in my life. You know, I mean, Miles again needs to embrace who he is. We're at our best when we admit who we are, and everything else in our lives suffers if we can't admit to who we are. Our relationship with our parents, our relationship with our friends, you know, our relationship to the girl that we got a crush on, like all of those things begin to come into focus as long as you can be the person that you're supposed to be and embrace your destiny and don't be afraid of it. Like, that's the whole point of the fucking anybody can wear the mask. It fits. The suit always fits eventually. You know? I mean,
that moment, I wasn't ready. And I was ready. I'm like, well, I'm sure he's going to be in here somewhere. And I wasn't ready for how perfect that cameo was. Miles likes to hang out with his uncle, Aaron. And so he kind of drops out of school for the day where he's supposed to stay like all the time overnight. He's supposed to be doing an essay on Great Expectations, not the book, but I mean like of his life or whatever the fuck. And so him and his uncle hang out. He's got the cool uncle, and they got a fun little relationship where his uncle's trying to like teach him the shoulder move, where you just walk up to a girl and go, hey, put your hand on her shoulder, hey, and then they have a hey off. It's very cute. And then his Miles is a bit of a tagger, likes to tag like name tags literally and slap them all over town. So his uncle's like, I got a place, let's go. And it was really sweet little, I mean, again, I knew he was the Prowler. They get to like this fence. The character movement's fucking incredible on the Prowler character. His run as he chases Spider-Man is one of the most terrifying fucking images you'll see this year. It's relentless. And the score back in it, like, wah, is scary. It's a fucking scary look, man. If I was a kid watching that movie, that would haunt my dreams. So they show him hopping this fucking fence, like parkouring it.
Yeah, Jackie Channing is way over the fence.
And it's like beautiful. Like, and you're just as gobsmacked as like Miles, who's never seen his uncle in quite that capacity. But if you know the comics, you're like, oh, of course, he's Prowler and shit. So they get on to over the other side of this fence, and there's a space where they're just tagging. They put on this old school beatbox and start painting. Miles paints this No Expectations mural. And, you know, his uncle's kind of like the surrogate dad. He looks up to him more than he looks up to his cop dad.
Yeah, he's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi for this kid. It's the like, here's the person who's going to teach me how I can live my life. He enjoys it. He has fun with it. He does what he wants to do. He goes where he wants to go. Where his dad is all about rules, his uncle is all about fun.
And if you know where it's going, and even if you don't, it's a fucking even more wicked ride, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
You have no idea that the heartbreak is coming.
Nope. Didn't even see it coming.
So they're under Alchemax, tagging Spider 42 drops down, and there's a great montage of them painting with great fucking hip hop, old school hip hop, where the Spider is, you know, ever about to be where he needs to. And the audience knows it's got to be the kid. It's got to be Miles. Like,
when's it going to happen?
Yeah, and it works it in a fun way all the way up till the end when Miles is taking a little selfie, or not a selfie, he's taking a snapshot of his artwork, and then the Spider crawls on his hand, and, you know, fang, multi-panels and stuff. They really make use of the comic book language. Not overuse where you're like, you know, oh, fuck, I get it. Perfect use of it.
Yeah.
Great homage.
It never feels like they're hitting you over the head with it. And they use it in ways that enhance the emotionality of it. Like there's you know, the sequence when he's running away from, because right after that scene, he goes in and sees Spider-Man get killed by Kingpin, and he gets the
first
goober.
He goes home. No, after that he goes.
Does he go home first?
He goes home, and that's where he fucking gets taller. Remember? And then he goes into school and sees Gwanda again, and his hand gets stuck in her hair, and then they've got to cut her hair because his fingers start sticking to everything. And then he gets chased around school by the security guy. He's like, he'll never find me here. And he's like on the picture on the desk. He's sticking to the wall. He winds up walking out. He has the birds are stuck to his hand. It's a fantastic comedic bit. Something you could never do in the real world. Or if you did, it would take a long time. But it just sells because of the medium we're in, the animation. And because we all know, oh, Spider-Man sticks to fucking walls.
Yeah.
Really wonderful sight gag. And then he falls out the window of the school and fucking.
And like he's running away, and you can see that it breaks into panels, and each panel has like the little thought balloon or the narration balloon. Is like, what the hell is happening to me? And it's this perfect, seamless melding of vision and
with
static.
A fantastic score too.
Yeah.
Like it was a real great, what the fuck is going on with me? And because his roommate is into comics, Miles like sees he winds up with an issue of Spider-Man on his face and sees the exact thing happening to a character named Billy in the comics. In their world, everyone knows about Spider-Man. They just don't know who he is.
Right.
And there's lots of Spider-Man merch. Like as the Spider-Man told us, you know, as you saw in the trailer, he's like, there's a this. I have a great TV theme song, a Christmas album, all these shit, and a pretty okay ice pop.
Did you hear today that they're releasing the Christmas album?
So smart. Such a great idea. I mean, here we are on the cusp of Christmas.
Chris Pine singing Have a Spidey Christmas.
So good. So he, he's a known quantity in this world. So Miles sees in the comics the character going through what he's going through, and then sees him get bit by the spider, and he's like, oh my God, no, I just got bit by a normal spider. And so he's like, I got to go back and find the spider. So he goes back to Alchemax, and looking for the spider, which is the only like narrative part of the device where you're like, would you look for the spider? But you got to get him back to Alchemax.
Right. It's a clue trail.
Yes.
And it doesn't even last for that long because the minute he gets back to Alchemax, his spider senses go off for the first time.
And blam. Yeah. There's a giant Spider-Man fight with this oversized gargantuan Green Goblin going on while Kingpin is watching, you know, as in this gigantic super collider room. And Spider-Man is breathtakingly Spider-Man.
The most Spider-Man.
Oh my God. Like the swing up to the roof and the crawl, and he punches in, he goes, nope. And then finds the other panel and shit, and he tries to get the key in just to deactivate it in the nick of time and stuff, the confidence, and yet at the same time the fallibility that makes him wonderful.
That beat reminded me of that moment in Avengers Age of Ultron where Tony Stark is in that Sokovian castle and he's like, please be secret door, please be secret door, please be secret door. Yay!
Yeah. But he gets, attacked by Prowler, takes him down. And it's real great because he's like, Prowler, come on, man. Like, it's not even like, oh my God, the Prowler.
You're not going to get killed by the Prowler.
Mildly irritated by the Prowler interrupting his ability to Spider-Man themselves out of the situation. And that's when he faces a Kingpin, and the Kingpin's like, you're going to love the light show, and turns on the super collider. And Green Goblin's forcing Spider-Man's face into the stream that's being created. That's essentially like the multiverse opening up, a tear into the multiverse and stuff, where you're kind of seeing multiple versions and they break and shatter. And so some of those characters, some of those Spider-Men wind up coming to this world that the movie's taking place in.
Right. And it's all like Kirby Crackle and just weird. Someone's like Andy Warhol, like crazy
that was
pop
the
art.
Sienkiewicz type of fucking touch to it. And, Kingpin's like, no, get him out of there, shut it down. And so they shut it down. It blows the fuck up. Green Goblin is killed. Meanwhile, Miles is there. Miles went back to Alchemax, and so he's seeing all this happen. And at one point he falls, and Spider-Man is swinging while he's fighting Green Goblin, but he hears it. Like, you see the spider senses because they draw all over this motherfucker. Like the lines, and then he quick spins around because he's Spider-Man. He's gonna save the fucking person who's in jeopardy, and he catches Miles and puts him like on a safe bridge of some sort. And
like they both have a spider sense thing
that goes off.
It's like, wait, you're like me.
Yeah, so he recognizes him, and right away he's like, I can show you the ropes. I can teach you how to be Spider-Man. And Miles is like, oh my God, yes. And he goes, I just got to take care of this, one thing I got to stop this one thing from destroying the world, but just stay here. And that's when he does the breathtaking fucking swings where Miles is watching this and you're like, I'm going to cry. By the end of the movie, spoilers, Miles gets to do the exact same thing, the same fucking swing that he watched Spider-Man do to get to the top of the fucking super collider. He finally gets to do, but he watches Spider-Man, and while this fight's going on, he's like, I should help him. And he's like, who am I kidding? I can't fucking help him. And so he talks himself out of it. So whole thing blows up. Goblin's killed. Spider-Man is like blown to shit. It looks like hell. Miles goes over to talk to him. So Peter and Miles get to have a conversation, and it's so fucking good, dude. When he's like, when Spider-Man is telling him, he's like, he goes, wear the mask. He's going, you have to hide your identity. He goes, everyone's in his pocket. Like, it's so fucking good. You're like, that's the rationale. Like, of course you would wear a fucking mask because Kingpin owns everybody. He's like, you wear the mask to protect yourself and you protect your family because everybody's in his pocket. You don't know who to trust. Like, there's this slight edge of paranoia, which makes fucking sense of like, he's trying to communicate as quickly as he can to the kid. This is the shit you need to understand to be Spider-Man.
In his dying words, he's telling his.
But he keeps telling him, he's like, oh, don't worry, kid. I'm going to get up.
Right.
That's a big part of it. Yeah. Like Spider-Man, even in his narration, they keep showing him getting the fucking shit knocked out of him. But at the end of the day, I always get up. And, they fucking show him getting up. He's like, because I'm Spider-Man. So he tells Miles, he's like, I'm going to get up. I just need a minute. I always get up. Don't worry about it. But like, then you hear Kingpin coming with Tombstone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A character you never fucking see. This may be the cinematic debut, mixed media debut of Tombstone as Kingpin's muscle, and he looks fucking ferocious and gruesome. And so you hear Kingpin's coming. So Peter Parker's like, "Here, take this key. You got to get it you plug it into the hole up there, and you press the button." He's like, "If you don't do that, he's going to destroy it all. Everything, everybody Like, it's so fucking intense."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Promise me you could do this. Promise me." And the kid is looking at him. He's like, "I promise." And he's like, "Go, get out of here." So Miles runs, and Kingpin comes over, and Spider-Man is just quippy enough, where he's like, Kingpin's like, "I'd say, Spider-Man, it was nice to see you again, but it's not." And he's like, "Don't you want?" Tombstone is gonna fucking shoot him, and Spider-Man goes, "Don't you want to know what I saw in there?" And Kingpin stops Tombstone because he wants to know what Spider-Man saw in the stream. And it's heartbreaking. You don't even I'm gonna cry because I know the story, so I know what this means. But when it happened the first time, I was like, "What the fuck?" He goes, "It's not gonna work. They're gone." And fucking Kingpin like explodes in rage, and there's like a panel or two of like this gruesome, grotesque version of him with rage and fire behind him, like, "Ah!" And then he brings his fist down and he fucking kills Peter Parker, like at the start of the fucking movie while Miles Morales is looking on. So right then and there, you're like, where are we in the story? Like, because I saw the trailer.
You swinging with Peter Parker.
Yeah, like what's going on? And then you realize, oh wait, this is a multiverse story. So maybe that's Spider-Man. Like, you're trying to get ahead of it because you've seen the trailer. How wonderful it would have been to not ever seen the trailer and just be going in, completely blind.
I long for the days where that's possible. It happens so rarely that it's possible to even just know.
I'm part of the problem though. Like I could turn away, but I'm like, I want to see everything.
They put a trailer up, I'll watch it. They put a clip
everything
up, I'll watch it.
Oh my God, I'll watch the same clip 1,000 times.
I know it's bad for me, but I'll do it anyway.
So Miles is at that point, he sees Spider-Man get killed, and he's like, he's trying to leave, and he makes a noise, and Kingpin looks up and literally goes, "Kill that guy." He's so good, man.
Just kill that fucking
Just
guy.
so fucking dark and shit. This is a movie that doesn't give a fuck that there's a boy running around in a Halloween costume. Nope. They will try to fucking kill him.
I will send his uncle to go and kill him.
Totally. So he goes on the run, and the Prowler goes after Miles. And it's a pretty ferocious fucking chase. Like, he chases him through the sewers out of the bottom of Alchemex, and the way they depict him running, like it's kind of real. And you'd like, if somebody was running at you like that, and you would run twice as fast, or you would try, because you were like, if they catch me, they're going to hurt me.
Yeah, it's over.
It's predatory.
Yeah, I have just seen a dude die at the hands of all of these people.
Yeah.
This is not going to be a conversation if he catches me.
So he's running from the Prowler, and we don't know the backstory of the Prowler yet. We don't know their connection as an audience, unless you know the comics. And he gets away from him by way of the invisibility. Is that the first time it kicks in?
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was a part of that Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man can go invisible. I don't know if that's something they created for
the movie. If they did,
and
it's great.
It's fantastic. And as is the Venom punch. That feels like it was taken from like Spider-Man 2099. I don't know. Who makes an appearance in the end credits?
Yes.
Like, it's in the
Stop pointing. Scene. Yes. Stop pointing.
As Oscar Isaacs is doing the voice.
Which is awesome.
Of Miguel. I was looking at the credits going, who is Oscar Isaacs in this? And then all of a sudden the last scene played, and I'm like, that's Oscar Isaacs. This movie's so good, they threw away Oscar Isaacs in a post-fucking credit scene. That's how confident these people were. So he disappears, and the Prowler loses track of him and stuff. And then Miles is doesn't know what to do, and he tries to become Spider-Man, and he goes to the top of a building and tries to jump off, and then goes back down, goes to a shorter building, and then goes back up that and shit. And so in his pursuit of trying to be Spider-Man, he breaks the key, the goober that is later called, the key that Spider-Man gave him. So he goes to the Peter Parker's grave, and meanwhile they show like New York, like the news hits the world that Peter Parker is dead. And when Kingpin pulls off his mask at one point before he kills him, and it's a blonde Peter Parker,
Right.
So right away,
Not in Kansas.
and also, all right, you can kill him because that ain't Peter Parker. But by the end of the movie, you're like, that was Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like, there's somebody who was like tried to say online, you know, schlubby Peter Parker is the real Peter Parker. But it's like, you missed the fucking point of that movie.
The entire point of the movie.
If you're trying to make the one true Spider-Man, like, they're all valid and shit like that. So he at one point sees the funeral where Mary Jane is speaking, and the audience are a bunch of people wearing fucking masks, and some of them wearing Spider-Man masks and stuff.
I think that's when he goes and gets his mask.
That's
right?
when because
he wants to go to the funeral, and he knows that Kingpin is throwing it because he sees that on the news, and so he goes to get a mask and a costume.
Because Spider-Man said, like, you got to hide your face.
Wear a mask.
And he goes to a costume shop, and who sells him the costume but fucking Stan himself, Stan Lee. And Stan says, you know, he was a friend of mine, you know, or something. Was that the line? Or I knew him, you know. I think it was, he was a friend. We were friends, you know. I think that's what he said. Which, you know, even now just wants to make me fucking well up. Like, it's so close to Stan leaving, period. And to have him say, you know, we were friends, you know. They were fucking friends. Stan's entire mythology was spun on the back of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Everything Stan is today was connected to the Spider-Man has Stan's DNA in him, and vice versa. So that cameo, and you know, it ends with like you know, Stan saying, as Mark said, what's the line? He goes,
he's like, the suit always fits eventually.
Yeah,
So you'll get there.
He smiles, and there's a sign behind him that says "No returns." That's such a classic kind of like, that's very Stan.
Yeah. Yeah. It hit me. I'm trying to remember if it hit me as hard as it did at the end of Rogue One, where you see Leia.
Right.
And I think that came out like a month after Carrie had passed away. And just that, like, that little reminder you didn't expect that you were going to get of somebody who meant that much to this world,
right,
having been gone. And I think this was a little bit hard because it's so recent, and it's Stan.
Yes,
Stan playing Stan,
and it's like probably one of the most meaningful cameos.
Yeah,
in terms of like, oh my God, look at him interacting with the next generation of the character created and selling him a Spider-Man suit. Like, you don't got to be, you know, a psychiatrist or a deep thinker or Marc Bernardin, a great writer, to see the symbolism in Stan Lee handing Miles Morales his suit, and that suit is a Spider-Man suit, and telling him that everyone grows into the suit. And
yeah, it's the mental passing.
Oh my God, it's fucking beautiful. So I don't care who you are, you're fucking getting choked up at that moment in the movie theater, if not, you know, rolling tears like I did. So then he goes to the funeral, and like, you know, that's where she says, or I don't know if it's reversed, where he goes to the funeral first and she says, we're all Spider-Man. And because he's like, at the end, he's like, I got it. Cause Mary Jane says, you know, it's up to you. You're Spider-Man now, or whatever.
Yeah, the entire crowd is wearing Spider-Man costumes.
Yeah, Miles is like, I'm Spider-Man now. And the guy who leans over next to him with Spider-Man mask goes, I think it was a metaphor. That's when I think Miles goes up to the rooftop and starts trying it out and stuff. And then he goes to Peter Parker's grave because the key is broken.
Right.
And it's covered with balloons and gifts and stuff.
He goes to like place the key as like a totem of remembrance.
To be like, I'm sorry, I
can't do it.
Couldn't do it. And then somebody comes up behind him and they kind of play it like it might be the Prowler, but it's schlubby Peter Parker. And he goes to touch the kid, and the kid's venom punch kicks in and blows Peter Parker away while Peter fucking thwips at him and stuff. And then Miles looks at him and is like, oh my God, you're like me, but wait, what happened? He's schlubby and he doesn't have blonde hair. And The cops show up and they're like, release that dead body, kid. Kid, what are you doing with the dead body? Those are my favorite lines in the movie. So there's a chase where he's got to carry Peter's body. He's stronger now because he's been bitten by the radioactive spider.
Right, but it's very weakened at Bernie's, the amount of damage that gets done to schlubby Peter Parker.
Peter wakes up just in time to see the Peter Parker grave coming right at his face. They swing through traffic. They're attached to a subway, an overhead train that's like taking them through the city and whatnot. It was fun sight gags. And then eventually Peter wakes up and Miles' bedroom, I think it is.
Yeah, it's his dorm.
He's attached to the fucking punching bag. Mm-hmm. And so, he's like, who are you? What's going on? And you get the first version of, all right, let's do this one last time. My name is Peter B. Parker. And he tells you the story, and I was bitten by a radioactive spider. For the last 20 years, I've been the one and only Spider-Man. And he goes through his life, and then he talks about like getting married and then relationship falling apart, Aunt May dying. Him and Mary Jane getting divorced, him moving in by himself, taking it better. He's in a shower in full Spider-Man costume, crying. He's laying around in a Spider-Man costume, eating pizza, just being like a depressed bachelor and shit. And it's like Spider-Man is a rote activity for him at this point, but because his personal life is in shambles. And then something strange happened. He said, which is not weird because strange things happen to me all the time, which I fucking love. It's so true of that character. He's like, but this was really weird. And he got taken into the multiverse, sucked in, and wound up here in this world. So, Miles is like, all right, well, you got to teach me to be Spider-Man because this guy died. And then for whatever, reason, whatever brought you here is the same thing that killed this guy. And so
we got the goober. We got to fix the goober.
And there's this moment where, he's like, you got to teach me. And he's like, nah, man, I'm just going to go back into the, jump in the super collider and go back to my world and shit. And Miles is like, the voice, who does the voice? Do you know?
Of Peter B. Parker or Miles? Shamik Moore.
Who is that?
He was the lead in, he was one of the leads in The Get Down.
One of the best performances, like most natural, real. When he's talking to him, they're doing this like really cute walk up and down walls. Peter's like, goodbye, I'm out of here. I got a super collider. That's how I get home. Goodbye. And so Miles is like, wait, man, like Spider-Man got killed and the Prowler trying to kill me, and you're just going to walk away. You okay with this, Spider-Man? Such a really great delivery. And then Peter's like, yeah, I'm fine. Who is it? Jake Johnson?
Jake Johnson, yeah.
Fucking fantastic.
He's great.
Dude made an instant fan of me. I was like, this is fucking a fantastic performance.
He was on The New Girl, and I really like The New Girl.
So people saying he was in that movie, Let's Be Cops, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he is wonderful in this. Like, it's... I don't know, maybe there's some purists I've heard that are just like, well, that ain't really Peter Parker or whatever. But it's like, you're missing the point of that movie. It is Peter Parker and stuff. And like this, I love this version of Peter Parker. I love the Gone to Seed kind of like.
Seen it all, Peter Parker.
Yeah, it's really like fucking charming. Like he can fight these villains in his sleep at this point, but he can't fucking tell Mary Jane he's sorry. He can't work out his personal life or something like that. So he's becoming the teacher kind of to Miles. Miles was gonna have classic Spider-Man be his teacher,
the best Spider-Man, and
now he's got this guy.
Well, all right, I guess
they decide to go to Alchemax, like there's in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah,
so he's like, we're gonna swing there.
We got to redo the goober, and the place where the goober came from is Alchemax, so we got to go there.
And he goes, we're gonna swing there. He goes, no, we're not gonna swing all the way to the Hudson Valley. And they show him on a bus. And then they're sitting next to each other. He's like, Miles, you don't understand. He's like, you want to save all your energy, man. You don't want to like be swinging all the way to the Hudson Valley and then get into a fight. He's like, I just had a big burger breakfast. I don't want to be swinging. And then they get off the bus. There's another funny bus psych gag later on when the Spider family jumps off the bus as well. Like the rationale is like, what are we all swinging for, man? Like, let's take the bus. So they get out to the Hudson Valley place, break in, and they figure out like Miles rather had seen in while he was at the Brooklyn Academy, Visions Academy, this movie in science class that talked about the multiverse that was being narrated by this scientific lady and stuff. scientific lady's there. Miles is like, oh, that's the lady who was in the video or the film that we watched and stuff.
Dr. Octavius.
Yeah, which we don't find out. They don't say. They very cleverly hold her name out until the last possible second, which is so fucking good. Because her reveal is stunning.
That's great.
Stunning. Truly chilling, too. So
I love the plan. So we're going to go in. I'm going to grab this bagel. I'm going to have this bagel. I'm going to go. We're going to get the fucking new goober. We're going to
go after the scientist, and they show a male scientist. And then Peter goes, no, the scientist is the lady on the bike from the video. And Peter goes, oh, great. All right, new plan. I re-examine my, what is it, gender biases. Collect the information, collect the bagel, and get out. So they're breaking in. And they're trying to steal information off a computer.
Yeah.
And that's when they find out Miles is sticking to everything. Miles has a real problem sticking to shit. He can't let go of the roof that they came in on. Miles still wearing just this like store-bought mask and stuff and Spider-Man suit. And, Peter's just like, relax. You just got to relax. And they showed Miles earlier in the movie singing Post Malone, Sunflower. And so he's hanging from the roof and he starts singing it and his fingers become unstuck. And then he falls down and then like he's invisible all of a sudden. And he finds like, Peter's like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. And Miles is like, is this normal? He goes, not in my universe. And he said, it must be some sort of fight or flight kind of thing. Then the shadow of this lady doctor's coming. And so, boom, Peter, Miles disappears. So Peter tells him, like, look, I'll work the lady. You go hack into the computer. So the lady comes into the room. And she's like, Spider-Man. They cut to him. He's leaning on the desk. He's like, oh, hey. I didn't see you there. And he's schlubby Spider-Man. He's wearing sweatpants. The bottom half of his outfit is sweatpants. He's got like a fucking prodigious gut. And so she's so delighted to see him and she throws him into a chair and stuff and she's looking at him and peeking over and she's like, you must be like an altered dimensional Peter Parker and like your atoms must be under like attack right now, and he's like, no, I'm fine. And then he shows him glitching and shit. Because that's the thing. If you're not from our universe,
over time,
your atom's going to break down. So that's a reason to get out of our universe. That's why all the spider people can't just be here 24/7.
Right. It's very like Back to the Future.
It's ticking
the longer
clock.
you're here, the Polaroid, people begin to disappear, and it's going to happen to you too, Marty.
She tells him, she's like, you're, because he's locked in this chair and she's facing him, and she comes across as like very caring.
Yeah.
And she's
got
like
hippie hair
and sounds like a poetry teacher. And she was like, yeah, you are glitching and that's going to happen until every, atom in your body destabilizes and breaks down. It is going to be agonizingly painful. And I, for one, cannot wait to watch it happen, Peter Parker. And he's like, excuse me?
This took a turn.
And then he's like, I'm sorry, what did you say your name was? And she's like, Dr. Olivia Octavius. And he's like, do your friends call you Doc Ock? She's like, no, my enemies. My friends call me Liv. And fucking the outfit appears. And they do Doc Ock, but it's Lady Doc Ock.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. And she's not like, she's definitely in control and dark and sinister, but she's not like, this mustache twisting villain. She has a maternal tone to her.
She's got a maternal tone and she's scientifically curious. And she doesn't come across as evil. Just, I want to see this happen to you.
And also just, yes. And also like, I want to, like Fisk is using her to breach the multiverse. She just wants to see if she's right. She's a scientist. He wants what he wants. Like suddenly you're realizing like, oh my God, they're crossing over villains. This is a team up. Like it's not just Kingpin and Tombstone and Prowler, but Doc Ock is here. Like how close are we going to get to a fucking Sinister Six?
Yeah, we saw Green Goblin early.
We did. So essentially they did have 6 villains, right? Like,
and then Scorpion shows up later.
Yes, that's right. To join the fight. So it's pretty fucking dope, man. They've got a great sequence where she chases like an invisible Spider-Man. Like at one point he can't hack in, so he's carrying
the actual computer,
the drive and the screen. And then when they're escaping later on, Peter Parker Spider-Man goes, he's like, I got good news and bad news. Good news, we don't need the monitor. And he throws the fucking monitor. Then there's the bagel scene, which you've seen like on the clip online, where they come into the room and there's a room full of scientists, and he's like, "Be casual, selecting a bagel," and then you just hear scientists go, "Spider-Man," like real calm and shit. Bagel? And then he's like, "I get that all the time." And then they whip out fucking weapons and lasers. Yeah. And they run and escape. Kingpin is there as well.
He is. My single favorite little joke in that entire movie is when they're escaping after the cafeteria scene and they're running through the double doors. And
what do I do with this? He goes, "Throw the bagel.
Throw the bagel." And he throws it. And then there's the little sound effect that just says bagel.
As it hits the guy in the head.
Yeah, bagel. Like, who
so
did
good.
this?
So good.
Because that's the thing, especially computer generated. Like, you got to pitch that. You got to pitch it. You got to say, is it worth the money to spend to render this?
And think about the rendering. It was a flat 2-dimensional thing that they wrote on top.
Yeah.
And like, it's everything.
It's everything.
That little fucking joke will live in infamy.
It
like
totally
it
will.
Makes so many people happy. And the people that didn't see it right away will see it on second viewing.
And all the Peter Porker stuff was all hand drawn.
Yes.
So like every time, because I remember seeing one of the animators was on Twitter talking about every time Peter Porker would run, Spider-Ham would run, they had to hand animate the like foot, like the old fucking Fred Flintstone, like
right. Multiple feats.
Yeah, all that shit had to be drawn in, and like nobody really remembered how to do this because we don't do this anymore. But it had to be this way,
and it enhances the entire thing.
Yeah.
Where are we in the story?
We are escaping from Alchemex in the woods of the Hudson Valley, being chased by
which you've
Lady
seen
Gaga.
online as Peter is being taught. Peter is teaching Miles to swing. He's like the best. But everybody knows the best way to learn is under total life-threatening pressure. And he's trying to teach him to swing, and while Doc Ock is chasing them through the woods as well. And, she's very like, "Peter Parker, come back here." Not like, "I'm going to fucking kill you, Peter Parker." Really great performance by, I think it's Catherine Hahn is playing Doc Ock. And the boys are saved at the last minute by another spider person, and it's Spider-Woman.
Spider-Gwen.
Gwen herself. But she introduces her as, "I'm Spider-Woman, the one and only Spider-Woman," because naturally she wouldn't tell the world she was Spider-Gwen, but it's Gwen Stacy. And it's a version of Spider-Man that's been popular for like the last couple of years.
Yeah, because it was like a one-shot out of the Miles Morales stuff. Where, Gwen Stacy gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and she's a drummer in a rock band. And I think, again, I think her dad is the one who died. Maybe not an uncle. I think it's her dad who dies.
No, she saves her dad.
She saves her dad.
And Peter dies.
Peter dies. Right.
Peter Parker, her friend, takes some drugs and turns into the lizard, and she winds up fighting the lizard, and then he devolves into Peter, and she's like, "Peter," and he dies in her arms. So it's the reverse of Gwen Stacy doesn't die in Peter's arms. Peter dies in Gwen Stacy's arms.
Which is just...
Character's visually stunning, really caught on. There's Funko Pops of the character.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of hoodies out there that are that gray and steel blue with the eyes. And
it's a great idea that caught on, and then like perfect timing for this because, bam, she works. And we've seen her in the movie. She's Gwanda. She was at one because he said, "What's your name?" She was going to say Gwen, and then she was like, Gwanda.
"Hello, Gwanda."
And he's like, "Where are you from?" She's like, "South Africa." So she's also trapped, and then we also get, "All right, let's do this one last time. My name is Gwen Stacy. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for the last 5 years, I've been the one and only Spider-Woman." And then she tells her origin story. And then she also got zapped to our universe in the middle of a fight with Doc Ock. And she's been stuck here. So she went to the Brooklyn Visions Academy. And that's where she ran into Miles, and she kind of recognized
Right, you're like me.
the similarity. And so she's been hiding out trying to get information. And so, she's also looking for this, but she's glitching too. She can't really fucking be out of. She takes out Doc Ock.
Right. Yeah, she's a hero.
She's a hero. So I think from that point, that's when they're like, we should probably go to this place. Like, there's only one place. Like the key,
where
the
the goober come from
is fixed, and he's like, I'm sure in this universe there was some place that Peter made this. So let's go back to
where would he do this?
And so they show up at a house, and Peter Parker, schlubby Peter Parker, is like, man, I'm not ready for this. And they do a cute gag of like, he just fucking thwip and rings the doorbell. So he's not like near the door. He's stepping a few feet back and stuff. And Lily Tomlin's Aunt May opens the door.
Oh, she's great.
She's fantastic. And she has a really emotional moment where she's like, Peter? Like, because Peter just died and there's this hope in her eyes for a minute. And this is the first Spider-Man she's run into that looks like her Peter Parker.
Her hair's different, but Peter?
Yeah. And then he's like, he explains that like, I'm from another dimension. I got blown here and stuff. And, you know, she's like, well, did you guys think you were the only ones? And he's like, what do you mean the only one? She's like, follow me. And so she brings him out to a shed in the backyard. And Schlubby Peter B. Parker is like, oh, I got one of these where I keep my gear and, you know, stuff like that. And
My
like,
lawnmower.
and they turn the key and it's like light show. And it's essentially the entry to the Bat Cave. And so this version of Spider-Man was like,
yeah, James Bond meets Batman.
He's got his spider cave.
And she's his Alfred.
Totally. And he's got, you see the spider Jeep that we all played with from Mego Toys.
Chopper.
The spider chopper, like, and a variety of spider suits. It's like hands down, it's just the fucking Batcave. And Schlubby Peter Parker is just like, I feel sorry for this guy. You don't need all this. At one point, like, Miles has a cape on his outfit. Fucking Peter B. Parker is like, Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape. Take it off. It's disrespectful. So they find a Spider-Man that does have a cape on it and shit.
Like, look!
Peter Parker sees a picture of Mary Jane and is kind of stopped in his tracks and stuff. Aunt May, you know, encourages the others to come out of the darkness and shit. And that's where we meet the other Spider family members, including Spider-Man Noir, who is portrayed by Nick Cage in a fantastic scene-stealing turn. You know, like at one point,
it's dark.
He goes, why does, you know, he goes, is that guy in black and white? Because he's always in black and white. And he goes, is that guy in black and white? And he goes, and why is the wind blowing? We're in a cave. And he goes, wherever I go, the wind blows. And the wind smells like rain. So fucking good. Then they introduce Penny Parker, and then they introduce Spider-Ham, who they made a lot more of in the trailers than they actually do anything with. And, you know, I was borderline like, you didn't need him, but it's so fucking, I'm so glad they included him.
Yeah, it's this perfect little grace note. And John Mulaney, who does the voice,
does a wonderful job with that voice.
Yeah, just leans into it.
And it's
why am I always wet? It's
also like the beautiful, like it just gives him a great, like, you know, at the end he's like, you know, that's all, folks. And somebody's like, are we legally allowed to say that? You get a nice gag out of it. So Spider-Ham, Penny Parker, Spider-Man Noir join up with Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man, Schlubby Spider-Man. So there's your Spider family.
Spider team.
And so then it becomes about like, well, you know, in order for us to get back to our worlds, Super Collider, you know, has to go on. We all jump into it. And then somebody stays behind, puts in the goober and presses the button to turn it off so that it doesn't destroy the world. And, you know, Miles, I'm going to do it. This is my world. Everyone else is, you know, going through dimensional shock trauma. But Miles and Aunt May, obviously not. They share the same universe. She goes, what universe are you from? He's like, Brooklyn. So he's like, I'm the one that makes the most sense. But then everyone's like, can you do this? Like, and then they start, it's not so much a training montage, but it's a bunch of spider people beating up the young guy to show that he's really not fucking prepared for what awaits him and stuff. And,
right. And it's in Aunt May's house. And that's when Prowler crashes.
There's a Bing Bong and fucking
Prowler and Scorpion,
Tombstone and Kingpin. Yeah. Everybody shows up at Aunt May's, and you know, she's like, take it outside, but they don't. And there's a massive spider fight against Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. So Tombstone is in that fight. Scorpion, a Latino version of Scorpion, Doc Ock.
Prowler shows up.
So there's about 4 villains, and Kingpin is in the mix somewhere. I don't know if he comes into the house or if he shows up later on for the Prowler.
I think he's like in the car later on. shows up on the
Yes, that's right. He's like, what are you doing, Prowler? Kill the kid.
Yeah, get out there. You do your job.
He, big fight with all the characters fighting, visually fucking stunning, wonderfully fun, because, you know, Spider-Ham fights with a fucking giant mallet and shit like that. The Prowler shows up, and at one point, Miles finds out that his uncle's the Prowler. He goes to his uncle's apartment. He's writing a note going, something happened. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. And then all of a sudden the Prowler shows up.
Because he's dodging his father. He's dodging his family. He doesn't go back home, but he goes to his uncle's house. And he leaves him he fucking calls him on the phone. And is like, hey, listen, I need somebody to talk to. You're the only one who I can talk to.
And his uncle's out of town.
And his uncle's like, hey, I'm out of town for a couple of days.
So he goes to his uncle's place, writes a note. And all of a sudden the Prowler somebody shows up outside the window. It's fucking, you see his gloves, and as he opens the window, it's the Prowler. Miles goes invisible. The Prowler, like, you hear him talking to Wilson Fisk, and then he takes off his mask, and then you see it's Uncle Aaron talking in his voice with a modulator.
Then, Miles knocks something over, and then there's that scene.
He goes out the window. At first, you can't see him, and he looks like he's going to see him behind the TV. And Miles goes out the window, and there's a bit of a branch movement. Mm-hmm. Then his uncle looks out the window with a different vision, like heat vision, thermal imaging, and sees Miles escaping, and then fucking does a chase on Miles again. And somehow that ends, right? Like,
yeah, Miles gets away.
So anyway, we're back at the house, and that's, I guess, before... That's before he goes to Peter Parker's grave. Miles. That's the moment before he goes to Peter Parker's grave, I think. Because that's...
Right.
Because then once he gets Peter Parker, he never
leaves
Prowler.
Right.
Until Prowler shows up at this big Aunt May fight. Mm-hmm. So Prowler, fucking chases Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, like up through the roof of the house and fucking chasing him to the end of a roof, and finally he's got him by the throat,
holding him off the edge of the roof.
And he's clearly a kid.
Oh yeah,
but it don't matter. And he's just like, there's no roof left or nowhere left to run or whatever. And so he's choking the fucking kid, and Miles lifts his mask and shows him that it's Miles, and you hear probably under the voice of Miles, and he's like, please, Uncle Aaron. He's fucking choking a kid to death in this movie. And he lifts up his mask, and you see the shock in his fucking face. And he's like, Miles, what are you doing? And he's like, please, Uncle Aaron, please. And Miles' feet are barely touching the rooftop and shit. Like his neck could snap at any second. And then down below is Kingpin from a car. Is like, what are you doing? Prowler, what are you doing? Because he's got the cell phone, and Prowler's got the head thing on. Like, hurry the fuck up. Kill him or whatever the fuck. You see Prowler fucking lower Spider-Man, the Miles mask over his face again. And in that moment, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, that's a Crimson fucking thing. Like, you know what? As long as you're Spider-Man, I can do my job.
I don't see your face.
It really dark. But then he steps back and puts the kid on his own feet and shit. And he takes one breath, and then bam, he's shot in the fucking through the back, and they reveal Kingpin with a gun out, having shot Prowler from down below, and then he aims it at Peter, Miles. Fuck, that's tough. And Miles runs away and stuff. So suddenly he picks up Prowler's body and swings off, and the cops are fucking showing up and shit. Mm-hmm. And so he takes Prowler to a side alley where he has his final moments with his uncle dying, and he doesn't do with great power comes great responsibility. They make a joke about that at one point. Like, Miles is like, with great power, and Schlubby Peter Parker is like, don't you dare finish saying that. I'm so tired of that. I'm over it. So he has a moment, Miles, to talk to his uncle, and his uncle's just like, you're the best of us, Miles. Yeah. Just keep going. You're there, man. Just keep going. And then he dies. And so Miles is heartbroken and feels responsible. And then the cop car pulls up, and it's his dad. His dad comes over the fence, and he just sees a kid like laying over a body. And,
in a Spider-Man outfit.
Freeze. And, suddenly like, holy shit, this is classic comic book storytelling. This is why he hates Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. So Miles goes invisible and gets away, but then Jeff sees that his brother Aaron is dead and calls it in. He's like, I want an APB on Spider-Man. So suddenly the seeds of like a hatred for Spider-Man, which I will point out, They did an entire movie, no J. Jonah Jameson. Not a single fucking reference. No Daily Bugle. Like, just amazing. You don't need it. You don't need it. Totally get away with it.
And I think they were also really smart because in that moment, it's the put out an APB on Spider-Man. You think it's going to be this long-running, like, simmering feud.
Oh, I see what Act 2 is. Like
totally.
It's dad versus son.
Dad versus son.
They give you such a better movie than that.
I got to keep this secret, and it's going to go on forever. And, Dad hates Spider-Man but loves me, and I love my dad, but I am Spider-Man. And they diffuse it, like, 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually want that story.
They got so much other story to tell. They're like, look at all these Spider-Men.
Yeah.
And a girl. Yeah. Spider-Woman.
We got nothing but conflict.
We got some shit to do here.
We can end this. We can resolve this in such a way that an audience can go home saying, you know what I wanted was this family to get back together. And I want them to all believe that they're back together and know the truth about one another, because the only way for Miles to be the person he's supposed to be, by embracing everything that he is by letting his dad in on it.
Yeah.
Like, I heard you, Dad. I'm embracing the spark that's within.
Miles, in the spider cave after getting his ass beat a few times and knocked over and whatnot, is realizing, they go off to have a huddle to talk about him. And essentially they're all saying, like, this guy's not ready. We're fucked. He can't do it. Like, this kid's too green and blah, blah, blah. Miles takes off, leaves the spider cave. I forget
goes
where
to his dorm.
Goes to his dorm. And then is looking at his book where he did his no expectations tag and throws out the window. Then it comes back. Peter shows up, give him the pep talk a little bit, but then they all show up and they've shown up to say goodbye. They're going to do this without him. And he's like, no, I could do this. And they're like, you can't. And Peter sweeps his legs out and grabs him by the fucking shirt and shows him how fast he is, and then
webs him to the chair.
It was a really great gag, visual gag, and they have a million beautiful sight gags that just, they're not wasted. They're all fantastic, but I can't remember them all, that continue to elevate this movie every step of the way.
Like he webs him to the chair and he says, I'm ready. I can help you. Honestly, if you're ready, then Venom blast your way out of the chair.
Or turn invisible like you do.
Do any of the things that you're able to do. And he can't do it. It's like, then you're not ready. And they all just leave and he's by himself.
They all swing off into the sunset to go save the world as the Spider family.
Yeah.
Which you've instantly just bought into.
Oh, yeah.
Like, same way that everyone go, okay, I'll do this one last time. They did one for Spider-Man Noir. He had his origin. He's a 1930s guy in a mask, with guns, who punches and loves egg creams and shit like that. Like, he says shit like, we don't pick the ballroom, we just do the dance. He's that guy. And so then they show Penny Parker's origin. Her father was killed. A radioactive spider controls this gigantic robot that her father built that she gets inside of and fights from inside of, and that's the Spider-Man in 2349 or whatever the fuck. And Peter Porker, of course, the spectacular Spider-Ham, is bitten by a radioactive pig. They show at one point, everyone says spider and he goes pig. And so they get their own mini origins and stuff, and they were all blasted here in the same fucking way, dimensional rift. So they all got to get home. So they all operate. They all know how to be Spider-Man. And suddenly you realize, oh, there's a story about how Miles has to learn how to be Spider-Man, or else fucking that's it. You got to take a leap of faith. And that's what Peter Parker tells him before he goes, how would I know when I'm ready to be Spider-Man? And he goes, you don't. You'll never know, Miles. It's just a leap of faith. That's all it is. Pulls on his mask and swings away and shit. So Miles concentrates and fucking Venom punches his way out of the fucking...
Well, first that's his dad shows up.
Oh, and they have the conversation.
They have the conversation through the door.
Really beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Where the dad knows the son is on the other side of the door and sees the shadow.
Right. It's like, I know you're not ready to talk to me yet, Miles.
Because he won't answer because his mouth is webbed closed. Right.
I've been calling you. I understand you don't want to talk yet, and I know you're here, but I got to say some stuff. I don't want to push you. I don't want to prod you. I know, if you don't want to go to the school, that's fine. We love you to death, but we realize that there's a spark in you. You're special. And we just want to find ways to nurture the special that's within you. It's like, when you're ready to talk, we'll be here. And he just leaves. And
he does the I love you just in the beginning. He's like, I love you, Miles. And then has the nice bit of calling over the loudspeaker. You got to say, I love you. And he makes him say I love you in front of everybody and shit. So it's a callback. He says he loves him, but Miles ain't responding. And his dad takes that to mean like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I've said what I came to say and stuff. And, you know, you'll talk when you're ready.
Yeah.
And leaves, but Miles can't say anything.
No, you just hear like his head just sort of silently like nod against the door.
Because he also can't, you know, fucking bang his head against the door and tell his dad to open the door. If his dad sees him all webbed up.
Right.
Spider-Man, you know, shit gets worse. So that's when he powers up, gets out of the fucking webbing and shit like that. Yeah, and that's where they start the fucking, what's up, danger?
And he goes to
Don't be a stranger
to Aunt May's, and she's like, about time.
Yes.
I've been waiting
she's
for
like,
you.
I made these for you. They fit perfectly. And he grabs the spider suit and tags it, paints it, makes it his own and shit.
Yeah.
And then heads off to try to swing and goes to the top of a building. It's a fantastic montage that you can see online.
Oh, yeah. It is one of my favorite, like, becoming a hero
moments
scenes
in any movie ever made.
And
him blasting off the side of a building and the glass breaking under his fingertips is fantastic.
Yeah, and just it being upside down, so he's actually soaring higher, even though he's actually falling. And yeah, I'm getting a little misty, a little verklempt even.
Oh, it's beautiful, and it's so funny, like how there's this accepted language of Spider-Man by that point in the movie that even if you came into that not ever knowing anything about Spider-Man, they have spoon-fed you. Okay, let's do this again. I was bit by a radioactive spider. You have enough origins and you have enough, like, this is what that character does. We've seen them all fucking swing, and this kid is learning, and this is the night, the moment where he fucking breaks free, and it's beautiful. And as he's fucking plummeting to the fucking ground, you know, they're still montaging and showing Aunt May giving him the web shooters and saying they fit perfectly. I made them myself. And then just before he's about to hit, he fucking blasts them. They go to the top of the tower. Can't stop me now. And he's swinging through fucking New York. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's awesome. And it's that moment where, like, just after the hero has his darkest moment, which is he's abandoned. He can't connect with his dad. All of his friends have left him alone, strapped to a chair. Here is a person who's fundamentally not the same guy you met when the movie started. Like, he's changed. He's not, and it's not just because he got bit by a spider. Like, that's not what makes you Spider-Man.
Right.
It's the embracing the fact that you have a responsibility and that you have people who you love and a city that you love. And it's being ready to accept that with great power comes great responsibility. And then he's a fucking hero. He leaps off that building, a boy, and he swings to the ground as a man.
He swings across, and he finally lifts up the mask and looks back. And,
all right, let's go.
And that's when, bam, he gets his own comic book cover.
Yeah, Miles Morales, number one.
That had Bendis' name on the cover, too. And who was it? Bendis.
Sarah Pichelli, I think.
So Miles, was he wasn't Ultimate Universe.
It was like Spectacular Spider-Man number 1 or something like that. But it was just Spider-Man number 1.
Was it set in our universe or the universe of?
It's not the Ultimate Universe.
It's not the Ultimate.
I think it's just one of the many of the Bendis multiverse that he invented.
So he wasn't contemporary of Peter Parker. I know they did a story where they teamed up and crossed over and shit.
Yeah, they did one in the cartoon, and I think Donald Glover voiced Miles Morales.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, in the cartoon.
That's pretty tight.
But yeah, it required a dimensional shift for Miles Morales to actually meet Peter Parker.
So we see our Spider team has gone to Brooklyn where Fisk is having a ball, and it's in honor of fucking Spider-Man, and Mary Jane is there to speak, and all the wait staff are in fucking Spider-Man masks and shit. And, you know, you get a few good jokes, like with Spider-Gwen looking at Fisk going, what a pig, and Spider-Ham being like, I'm right here. and Spider-Man Nora being like, look at their masks, and you see they're all Spider-Man. He's like, it can't be that easy. And then suddenly they're just on the floor blending in because they also have Spider-Man masks. So they look like the wait staff. And Peter Parker sees Mary Jane and has this moment where he breaks off, and, you know, he's just yet another guy in a Spider-Man mask.
I gotta go tell her how I feel. I gotta go do right. Like,
and she's like, hi, I was wondering if we could get more bread at our table. And he's like, yeah. He's going, I'm sorry. She's like, you don't have to apologize. He goes, I wasn't there for you. And she's like, I just wanted bread.
It's like, I promise the next time I see you, I will be the person you need to bring you more bread.
So they know that the Super Collider is being charged up under this fucking big shindig. And they all need it to get home. Mm-hmm. But somebody else, I think Schlubby Peter Parker is going to stay behind.
Right.
Because that universe is Peter Parker is dead anyway. So he'll do it. He'll get him through.
Right. And like Aunt May's alive here, and there's still a Mary Jane that
he has a really like he gets really nice performance beats in that character. Mm-hmm. Not just funny, he's legit funny throughout, and he has an authentic New York sounding voice.
Yeah,
but also like the Mary Jane beat, the beat with Aunt May, like tender fucking moments too. He's a good feckless teacher. Mm-hmm. They use Peter Parker so interestingly and so well, and use the trope of like world weary. I've done this 1,000 times, like, and not self-aware, like I'm in a comic book, but just
right.
I've done this so often, kid. Like at one point, like Kingpin is talking to the lady doctor before we know it's Doc Ock. And he's Miles is up in the roof with Peter in the air conditioning duct. And Peter's like, this is pretty standard Spider-Man stuff. You watch. He's going to say, you have 24 hours. And then they cut downstairs and Kingpin goes, you have 24 hours to make this work. And they cut back up to Spider-Man and Miles Spider-Man, and Peter Parker Spider-Man does the wink with the one of the eyes. Like, I've done this 1,000 times, kid. Oh, and shit like that just makes it magic. So Miles shows up to the Super Collider. Kingpin knew they were coming. Mm-hmm. And so they're prepared for him, and big fight ensues.
Right. And then in that fight is the first time we see what he wants to get out of the Collider.
Because he turns the Collider on. And we did a little montage prior to that when he was on he was clicking his pen. Mm-hmm. That's where they did the flashback and showed you how Wilson Fisk lost his family.
Right.
So this, the Super Collider starts, a probe goes up, and inside you start seeing various versions of his wife and his kid, like they take her hair from a comb or something like that to do a DNA search in the multiverse and stuff. But in doing that, that's going to rip open a hole in reality, kill everybody, blah, blah, blah. But he don't care. He's a man who wants what he lost, and he lost it because of his actions. Mm-hmm. But he's got all the money in the world and no conscience, just a villain with a broken heart. Mm-hmm. He's Kill Bill.
Yeah.
It's just, fucking a piece of shit who also bleeds when cut in the heart and wants to try to rectify something that you can't. Once broken, can't be fixed. So it's poignant. It's Shakespearean.
It really is.
It's really bittersweet. So the world dimensions are crashing into one another. Reality is being upended inside the Super Collider. Buildings are forming within buildings. Trains are moving and shit.
And you see a little bit of the outer world, like you see sort of Manhattan itself beginning to throb like an equalizer almost.
And people being like, what's going on? And the cop dad, heading off toward the danger. Right. The hero himself, like his son. So within the Super Collider, they fight Doc Ock, and she's there and shit like that. And they get the moment to turn it all on, and everyone has their goodbye thing. And so, Spider-Gwen, drops out into who's the first one? I think Spider-Man Noir is the first one.
To go, yeah.
At one point, he has a Rubik's Cube and shit. He's like, I'm going to take this.
I'm going to solve this book. Because he can't tell the colors apart.
Because he's black and white. He goes, is this purple? No. Blue? No. He's like, I'm going to take this thing with me. I don't know what it is, but I will figure it out. And then drops into his world and stuff.
Peter Porker goes.
Peter Porker goes with a tear and gives him a fucking hammer to put in his back. He goes, it'll fit in your back pocket. And then that's when he says, that's all, folks. And he dives back into his universe. And somebody's like, are we even legally allowed to say that?
Yeah. Penny Parker goes.
Well, they have a big fight inside the Super Collider. At one point, the Scorpion gets the better of Penny Parker, and it's this version of the Scorpion you've never really seen before.
Yeah, 'cause they're like 7 or 8 legs or something.
Yeah, like really looks like a cybernetic scorpion and shit. And his tail fucking punctures, her suit, like, and he gets saved. She gets saved at the last second by an anvil drops on his head. And that's from Peter Porker. And then the Scorpion sees him and he's like, "You a little cartoon." And he's like, "You got a problem with cartoons?" And then he fucking whips out the hammer and fucking beats the shit out of Scorpion. But Penny Parker's suit that her dad built, the giant robot that has expressions on his face, is dying. And they actually fucking get you to feel sad for this robot. Like, because his eyes flash as 2 hearts at her and then kind of go out. And she's heartbroken. She's represented as an anime character.
Yeah. Like she opens some little trap door and out comes the spider.
The spider.
Who said, "It's okay, we'll make another one."
That didn't happen, but that's the impression.
That's
given. I get real purist. I'm like, that didn't happen, Mark.
Yeah, fuck you. That's what I want to have happened.
How dare you? But they kill the suit and get some poignancy out of it. It's pretty impressive. So she dives back in with her spider and shit. Spider-Gwen dives in, and that leaves just Peter and Miles. But Kingpin has shown up. And
Miles like forces Peter to go into the fucking thing.
Peter don't want to go. Peter's like, "You can't take this guy by yourself." And he's like, he sweeps Peter's leg the same way Peter swept his, catches him by the shirt, and he's holding him over the fucking abyss that's going to send him back to his universe. And schlubby Peter Parker, is scared about going back. He'd rather stay here and fight the Kingpin than fucking go back to his world, because he's like, "What if I get it wrong again?" And he goes, "You won't." He goes, "You're right. It's a leap of faith." And then he lets him go. And schlubby Peter Parker goes back to his universe. And Miles, the hero rises.
She stands alone
to take on fucking Kingpin one-on-one. And Miles is, to be fair, like, only maybe double the height of Spider-Ham. He's still represented as a kid.
15-year-old boy.
Yes. And Kingpin looks like a fucking monster and is enraged because what he wanted is now they've turned off the super collider. It's out of fucking reach. And he's saying, "Crank it up all the way." So he's like, "I can't wait to kill, 2 Spider-Mans." And like, he starts fighting them, and Kingpin is like almost fucking unbeatable and shit. And meanwhile, his dad shows up as reality is shifting in the super collider. His cop dad, who's like seeing Spider-Man, tiny ass Spider-Man fighting this fucking giant monster and shit like that. Suddenly seeing him through a different prism, like, oh my God, because he's biased, like all throughout. Like at one point, Miles runs away after he gets bit and shit. When he runs home, and his parents find him in his room when he's supposed to be at the academy. And, it's after there was an earthquake. It was after the super collider went off and shit like that. So his mom's like, "Let him stay here, Jeff." And he asks his dad, he's like, "Dad, do you really hate Spider-Man?" And his dad's like, "Yeah." Another really great performance moment and shit. And she's like,
kind of, yeah.
"Jeff, get out of here." And he's like, "Baby, you know how I feel about Spider-Man." Like real shitty. So here he is seeing Spider-Man be a hero. Like holding the very walls of reality together while fighting this gigantic fucking monster. He don't know it's Miles. He's just looking at the suit, and he's like, clearly, it's me and this guy are the only 2 fucking people here, and standing between the brink of being and nothingness. And earlier he was the guy that was like Spider-Man. He comes in once a day, zip zap zap in his little mask, and answers to nobody. So he's a cop, and he's got a complicated relationship with this vigilante. But in this moment, he sees this vigilante as the hero that he is. Meanwhile, Miles is getting the crap kicked out of him by the fucking ever-living Kingpin and shit. And he puts him down, and then he's like, "You think you can beat me? You're not even the real Spider-Man." And he fucking takes him down and fucking beats him into the ground and shit. And Kingpin is represented not just like, oh, he's bigger than Miles. He's a mountain. He's a mountain. And so Spider-Man is face down on the ground. And of course, the recurring theme is like, you got to get up if you're Spider-Man.
Spider-Man always gets up.
So his dad, who don't know it's his kid, sees Spider-Man down on the ground in the swirling unreality with Kingpin hovering over him and shit. And it's fucking huge. His dad's just like, get up, Spider-Man. And then you got the moment where Miles has to get up. This big part of Spider-Man continuity. They did that in Homecoming as well, where he was like, get up, Spider-Man.
Come on, Spider-Man.
That comes right from that very famous issue where Spider-Man does that, literally fucking talks himself into like, if I don't do this, people die. Get up, Spider-Man. So fucking moving. So beautiful. And Miles fucking gets up and then does the thing that his uncle taught him, the shoulder fucking tap. Yeah. He's just like, puts his hand on Kingpin's shoulder and he goes, hey. And Kingpin's like, what? But that's his venom punch kicks in and fucking blast Kingpin off the building and shit that they're fighting on in this warping reality. And then he webs him and fucking uses Kingpin, swings him. He's like, Kingpin, press the button for me. And hurls him up to the top of the collider. So Kingpin presses the button inadvertently. That shuts everything fucking down and blows up and shit like that. And saves the fucking day. And, you know, everything starts going back to normal and shit. And so you see Tombstone get arrested. Like at one piece put in the back of a cop car.
Doc Ock gets arrested.
Doc Ock gets killed.
Does she get killed?
While they're fighting. Like she gets hit by a train. Like she's like, first it's like Peter, like she shows up first before Kingpin. And just as like Peter's about to, you know, jump in or whatever. And he's like, you can't do this alone. And so they both fight. He's like, this is going to take a while. And then all of a sudden she gets hit by a fucking train. And they're like, well, that was easy. Then Kingpin shows up. So his dad, you know, is there on the scene putting Tombstone in the car and shit. And then he gets a call from Miles, his son, and he answers it. And he's like, Miles. And so Miles is talking to him from the rooftop, looking down on him and shit. And his dad is like, well, you're safe. That's the important thing. And like, you know, Miles, you know, your uncle, you know, he was trying to tell him through the door something about his uncle. He was like, you know, I know you like the tag. And he's like, so there's some space, you know, in the precinct that maybe you can come down and put up your artwork. Like he's trying to bend because his dad earlier in the movie was like, you're going to go around town and you're going to pick all those stickers off. And he's like, you saw those? He goes, I saw them all. So Miles puts up tags and his dad, who's a cop, is like, take those down. So his dad saying like, you know, there's a place we can go.
Yeah, reaching out.
Reaching out. And also you saw how much it meant to Miles with his uncle. So Miles shows up like, he's like, Miles is on the phone. He says something about his coverage, but all of a sudden Spider-Man's there. And he's like, officer. And he goes, Spider-Man. Like that happens so fucking often. Like Doc Ock does it too at one point. She's like, when Miles shows up, she's like, Spider-Man? Like, it's such a comic book.
Yeah.
Like, and the scientist later on, or like earlier with the bagel bit where like, Spider-Man? Like, there's that to me was such comic book DNA. There's always this moment of Spider-Man.
How could you, what?
Like, everyone's always surprised. And it's like, how can you not be surprised at this point? So, yes, there's, you know, he's like, Spider-Man. And he goes, Miles is trying to do an adult voice. He's like, I look forward to working with you. Trying to be all deep voiced. And he's like, I look forward to working with you too. He's like, no, I don't approve of your vigilante methods and shit. And then he's like, he gives him a hug and he's like, oh, well, you know, all right, of course. And then he's like, I love you. And he's like, well, thank you. Very like, he still don't know that.
He's like, I love you. Thank you. You got to say it back. And that's what his dad knows. Wow.
It's so fucking sweet. So, you know, at that point, then he goes, my name's Miles Morales. You know, for the last 2 days, I've been, you know, the one and only Spider-Man and blah, blah, blah. And so we end on the note of like, he's become the hero. He lived up to what dying Peter Parker.
Yeah, he made him promise.
Taxed with him, promised him, and he grew into it. And here he is, the hero. And there's others out there like him. And he says, anyone could wear the mask. You could wear the mask, you know, as he swings through New York and shit. And then the movie ends and it's fucking wonderful. And then they do a post-credit sequence where they show Spider-Man 2099 that Peter David created. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think so, if I remember correctly.
He was like the architect of that 2099 stuff.
Yeah, of that universe shit. So, you know, and it's Oscar Isaac's voicing him, and they're like, all right, Miguel, he lives in Nueva York. And so there he's entering the fucking Spider-Verse, the stream and shit. And he gets zapped back to the cartoon, the classic Spider-Man, Spider-Man, and that meme of Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man from that one episode of the guy who dressed up like Spider-Man. So he shows up as Spider-Man 2099, but in that animation style, pointing at fucking, they're like, you're Spider-Man. You're stop pointing. You're pointing first. Like they even honored that fucking meme online.
Yeah. Every single piece of Spider-Man universe
was touched.
Got some love.
It was really fucking beautiful, but they can make 1,000 of these.
It did everything it was trying to do so well.
Look, I loved it, but I've always loved Spider-Man. And, you know, once again, there were many iterations there. But I got to imagine, like, for somebody who's not a white guy to sit there and see that story.
Yeah.
I saw so many people on Twitter, like, I took my little cousin. Like, all he runs around now is swinging. He'd never seen his face up on the screen. Like,
yeah. I mean, there were a couple of times that I teared up at this movie, and not the least of which was really early on when it's just, oh my God, this thing exists. Like it's in this world. It's been conjured from like pure imagination into something that, yeah, like an 8-year-old kid can go to the movies and see himself, and that a 47-year-old kid can go to the movies and see himself. It's astonishing. And the fact that it's good. You know, like
Yes.
it's one thing to have representation, and that means a lot. You know, if we learn nothing from this year, from Black Panther and the reception to the Captain Marvel trailer on the heels of Wonder Woman, it's that, you know, representation counts for a lot,
right.
and people will show out for that. But it never hurts for like a kid to see themselves be a hero. You know, like it's funny. There was a little bit of chatter that IDW was relaunching The Rocketeer. And and I think they were sort of updating it. It was less like, you know, Cliff Secord punching Nazis in the face, but it was going to be some like a modern day take.
Like a kid finds the tank.
Yeah, and I think that the sales, the pre-orders were not high enough, and so IDW canceled the book.
Oh.
And you know, I just kept thinking to myself, like, if you can't sell a book about a kid who finds a jetpack and learns how to fly, then like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be an audience for that. Like, there's always going to be an audience for a kid of any color, of any stripe, but boy or girl, whatever, who learns to do the impossible. Like,
That's a shame.
You know,
well, they showed it to us, and maybe this movie helps that in some fucking way. Maybe it's like, look, like, give it some time. Like, don't cancel. Dig in. Try it. Like, let it build. Maybe the book, like, hits later on. Maybe issue 3 it fucking connects. But, like, somebody out there wants to see themselves wearing the rocket pack.
Totally. Like, and I never thought that, you know, again, not just in a year where this is the best black superhero movie, but it's the best animated superhero movie in a year that had Incredibles 2.
Agreed.
You know, like this, it is a work of art.
And for me, I saw it 2 days in a row, back to back.
Ooh, did you?
Loved it. That's why I could do the story so fucking well. I didn't see it once. I saw it fucking twice. And I'm sure I'm going to get an Oscar screener soon. Because they should push hard for awards because they're going to win.
Yeah.
It may be my favorite movie of the year. Now, some people will be like, no, traditional movie, man. Fucking cartoon. Whatever. Split hairs all you want. Like, it stands at least shoulder to shoulders with Avengers Infinity War, which I've watched fucking now 52 times. So fucking I'm way deep on this. I obviously love that movie, but like this movie within 2 viewings went right next to that movie. That's how fucking strong it is. This is classic storytelling, and it had the DNA of all my favorite things in the world, and it had cooks that worked on shit that I liked before. Like it's got the DNA of that Lord and Miller team who could walk away with an Oscar in a year where they got bounced from fucking Solo.
Yeah.
Like it's a beautiful cinematic experience, quite like the Lego movie, where I walked out going like, fuck, it makes me feel I got to be a better human being.
Because it gives you everything you think you want from that world. Like the Lego movie was just, it was candy colored and fun and pure popcorn entertainment. You know, pop culture just miasma in your face.
Yeah.
And then it reveals this beating heart that you didn't even know was there. You know, this movie does the same thing. It's like, I'm giving you Spider-Man. Like, I'm giving you the best Spider-Man you've ever seen on screen before. And then, oh, by the way.
Yes, I agree with that, hands down.
Like, at its core, It is this like wonderful story about family and the length to which you will go to build a family and to hold on to the family you have.
It's work of art is the least we could say about it, man. Like, this is what every storyteller should strive for. I remember when I first saw like the Pixar movies, I was like, this is amazing. Why don't they do superhero movies like this? And then they did The Incredibles. And I'm like, yeah, that was amazing, but why don't they do the superheroes? I fucking know. And now they will. Yeah. Like, it made a bunch of money. It opened #1 and shit like that, which means when they do it again, now they've built an audience in for it. Like, they'll come out and shit. And these, you can get anybody to do voices, and these characters never age. Like, they could keep doing this with everybody. Imagine they gave you a Batman movie. This, like, in a world where people are like, man, another Batman. They found an interesting way to fucking give you Spider-Man served up fresh. Give us like a fucking, you're Warner Brothers, home of animation, fucking Bugs Bunny and all this shit. Like, give us an animated movie as fucking fine as that. You feature in The Dark Knight. You're doing shit where you couldn't do it normally, and you get anybody to voice that fucking thing. That, like, some rock star fucking actor or actress, whatever the fuck you're gonna do, because it's just a voice in a fucking CG movie. But oh god, I can't wait to own this. This will be my new go-to. I got nothing to do. I'm just gonna sit here and smoke and watch this. Certain key sequences, of course, but like I connected with this movie in a big bad way. I went back the second day, dragged my wife to it and shit. She was there for most of it, and then she fell asleep. And I was like, man, why am I married? You just don't get me. And she was just like, opposites attract. I'm like, yeah, I guess they say that. Somebody said that to justify why they don't like the shit their husband likes. But afterwards she goes, well, you watched it, did it hold up a second viewing? I said, it really did. Like, to me, that is a magical fucking movie.
Yeah, I only saw it the once. I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to see it again, and I want to see it in IMAX 3D.
That's how I saw it. Well, I didn't see it 3D, but I saw it on an IMAX screen the first time. Jesus, it was fucking huge.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing of it is that it's in the Marvel multiverse. Like, there is a world in which Miles Morales, with more dimensional chicanery, can absolutely cross over into the mainstream Marvel universe.
Look, I give it max 5 years before they fucking do it.
Yeah.
In the live action world. Like, it's just, the table's now set. They've proven it's a viable character.
Yeah. Or to go the other way and bring the Avengers into this Miles Morales universe.
Right.
And to tell it like a full-on fucking comic book crossover and get all the voices. Like, hey, we got fucking Hemsworth to do Thor. We got this to happen. We got RDJ back. All of this stuff. Like, you could absolutely make.
Man. It's true. Feige has a bridge into that world and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, and what? All right. So last time, like, Feige and Robert Downey Jr. deeply involved in a Sony movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Mm-hmm. Feige oversee this new one, Far From Home, because it's got Hoagie in it, Happy Hogan, and it's got.
Yeah, I think it'll still be produced by Kevin Feige. I think
so. He's got his fingers in this fucking pie.
I think everything that Tom Holland is involved in
is
part of the MCU.
Technically, I mean, it's technically Sony, but Disney gives a fuck,
right?
Because they're sharing them,
and it works for everybody.
I love that we live in this era
where we can have a conversation
like this, about a meaningful conversation. The world is going to shit around us, right? But the Marvel universe is the best place in the world to live right now.
Islands in the stream.
Who knew? Kids, you don't understand. We had Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher, and we would sit there and go like, why can't Marvel ever get one?
Just like, any one of these would be great.
They've got such great fucking IP. Why can't they ever get a movie right and shit? Now they can't get them wrong. Now the ones that aren't even, Kevin Feige Marvel.
Yeah.
You got Deadpool twice up. You got Logan, fucking crushed it. And now this, like, it's, I know they make the joke in Once Upon a Deadpool or whatever about like, well, you're not real Marvel.
Yeah. You're Fox Marvel.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like, Fox Marvel killing it. Sony Marvel killing it. Right now, Marvel just killing it across the boards, man. There ain't no fucking, nobody talks about the Inhumans anymore.
No.
But fucking like those, and even like, Iron Fist, which took a lot of hits with people being like, fuck this show. Like, people miss these Netflix shows going away. They were a big part of their fucking lives. I mean, and had grown into deep relationships with these characters.
I actively disliked, possibly even loathed Venom.
Right.
But Venom we talked about it.
You did. I didn't tell you what I thought.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it. Like, I watched it at home. So I had a good time. I was sitting there going, I can't believe this works. Like, this doesn't look like any other comic book movie I've ever seen in my life. It bears very little resemblance with that. It just seems like I had no comparison for it.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it.
It felt like 87 different movies all happening at once, and Tom Hardy is doing whatever the fuck he wants to do, which apparently people want to see because he is actually a magnetic actor. But from one scene to the next, I don't understand what that character wants or is doing. But it made $860 million worldwide.
Without real, and Venom doesn't come into it until like the 55-minute mark.
No.
And then when he's there's a couple sequences, but like, I get it. Like, he's a cool looking character. The whole time I was watching, there was one moment I literally laughed out loud at something where I was like, what the fuck? Where he was just like talking about, at one point, he's like, I'll bite off all their heads and leave a pile of their dead bodies in the corner of the room. And he was like, why? And he goes, it looks terrifying.
Like that movie's made more than Wonder Woman is made.
There's an audience. And that, you know what it means too? You can't deny now. Like, it felt like they're like, we're not fucking letting Spider-Man touch this. Like, Spider-Man is fucking gold, man. This is Venom. They better go prove himself. After making $800 million, you know who's showing up in the next movie, if only for a little bit? Fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. You have to. Like, and now there's no reason not to. I'll take a little of that $800 million heat. I don't know what Homecoming made, Spider-Man Homecoming.
I don't know. I mean, that seems to be, I'm not going to say par for the course, but between 700 and 900 feels like if you're making a real superhero movie that audience connect with, that's about where you're making.
All right. If you're really good.
If you're really good, you cross the $1 billion mark. If you're special, you cross like the $2 billion mark.
Everything Marvel right now is making me happy, man. Marvel is killing it across the boards. Like, just great storytelling, original storytelling. This fucking Spider-Verse movie. You know what? I don't even know you. Don't take this the wrong way. You don't deserve this movie. That's how fucking beautiful and good this is, man. This movie is like finding, you ever hear that Willie Nelson song, Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground? One of the saddest fucking songs. This is, and I mean, it was more about like finding somebody and nursing them back to health and they fuck off anyway. Not a true angel.
No.
This is literally like finding an angel with a broken wing, getting to nurse that angel back to health and like until that wing gets better. And then that angel's going to fucking leave you. This metaphor fell apart. I don't know. It's just, this is like finding Aladdin's lamp. This is such a rare treasure, this film. The DNA of which we all share. And it was made by people just like us, clearly more talented, but just like us who love the same shit we love. And when I say us, that's not like a white guy, like calling, what is that, dog whistling and shit? that would exclude Mark and that'd be weird. I mean us, I'm excluding others, this is true. Those of us who have lived their lives by these stupid ass codes of characters that are fake. They're characters, these aren't real people. But I never met finer human beings in my life than I met in the pages of comic books. These people made me want to be a better person. This movie makes you want to be a better person. It reminds me of the thrill of opening a fucking comic book and falling in love with a world, escapism, but learning something and not just cheap escapism for the sake of like fucking like, oh, that burned 2 hours. Walking away with a moral. Like this is our fucking morality tales. The same way that like Greeks and Romans were raised with stories of gods and vengeance to teach them right from wrong. And then fucking Christians, invaded the world with stories about do this because heaven, and if you don't, there's a hell. Our generation, this is what we got. And we read them in the books, and now we get to see them writ large on the giant screen. And watching it come to life was thrilling. Being in on the joke is fun and shit, but being able to appreciate that fact that movie works for anybody. You don't have to know fucking shit about Spider-Man. This could be the first time you ever heard the concept in your life of a spider anything. The movie brings you into its bosom, welcomes you gently, doesn't alienate you, and lets you learn about this fascinating fucking character through many dimensions. I'll tell you what, if this was your first introduction to Spider-Man,
oh my God,
it would fuck you for everything else. You'd never watch that Tobey Maguire thing.
Like, what is this crap?
Oh my God. It's just so fucking wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah, it's patient zero for all things that are great. Like if this was your first thing, if this was your induction to, you're the luckiest person in the world.
Sets a giant bar too. Like from now on, a lot of shit will be judged against this, where you're just like, I mean, shit. I feel good luck to the next Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Good luck, Far From Home.
Yeah, you gotta, and look, I'm sure they'll do it. They got Mysterio. That's their secret weapon. But like, this was a high fucking bar that was set. And I believe in that kid. I like him as Spider-Man, Tom Holland. And so far, those movies have been fucking pitch perfect.
Yeah, and he's great as Peter Parker.
Oh, and they know what they're doing and shit. So I bet you there'll be an emotional hook of some sort. But
yeah,
this was like playing poker with 12 aces up your sleeve. Like the deck was so loaded in their favor, and it was an expert dealer who could deal from top, bottom, middle, whatever. It was like being dealt a hand of fucking cards by Ricky Jay. All these cats, these directors, I shouted the movie out on Instagram, gave it a review and stuff, and one of the filmmakers was like, thanks. And like I said, oh my God, you're doing the Lord's work or some such shit.
It's funny, I saw it at a matinee at a theater out by my house near Chatsworth, California. And it was the first showing of the day, and I took my son, and there was a row of dudes sitting in front of me, all grown-ups, all whatever, it would clearly come out together. And, we all sat through the credits, and like when somebody's name came up, like the row of dudes was like, yay! So we get out to the lobby, and they're all like taking pictures in front of the big like lobby billboard. I was like, all right, which one of you worked on the movie? Like, we were all in VFX rendering. We were all doing this. It was like, well fucking done, gentlemen. Like, that was outstanding.
I would agree with that. I would totally stop and blow them for a minute, man.
Yeah.
Especially
like,
coming out of it.
Holy dog shit.
Oh, it's a fucking triumph. What a fantastic film this is. Even if you're like, well, I was going to say, even if you don't like comic books, why would you be listening to Batman Beyond? But even if you don't like Spider-Man, even if you're like, I'm a DC purist, fuck Marvel. This is the one to break that on.
So much charm.
Oh, my God.
So much love.
All the love.
It's a passion play in the best way.
I can't wait this is the shittiest thing to say to a bunch of people that took, I don't know how many years to make that, make the beautiful
4,
thing.
Maybe 6.
I want the next one as soon as possible.
Yeah. Why didn't I have it already?
Best and worst thing to say to somebody. Ooh, I loved it. When are you doing another one? Like, what the fuck? I just showed you a miraculous fucking magic trick and you want another one? I'm like,
you want me to pull off this victory lap before I even finish the circuit?
I'm American. I'm greedy, man. I'm a glutton. Please. Yeah. More excellence. And if you don't give it to me, I will turn on you.
This is, I think, I agree with you, my favorite movie of the year. And I think this might be, for me, the best superhero movie I've seen in a decade.
I'm with you on that. And it doesn't lower anything else.
Doesn't lower anything else.
Doesn't mean Avengers Infinity War is any less amazing than it fucking is. But like, holy shit. Like these two movies stand shoulder to shoulder. And look, one of the things they both have in common is they get the job done with way more than one character. And that's also the impressive thing to hail them both for is that like they're balancing so many fucking storylines.
Yeah.
And yet it works.
Yeah. And not only, Avengers Infinity War isn't introducing that many of them. Right. They've just got to service 50 fucking characters.
Right. This has to introduce them and
introduces
service them.
Almost everybody is brand new. Except for, the couple of Peter Parkers and Aunt May. Everybody else is a brand new character to the audience. And so to introduce them all, give them all stories, give them all reasons for being there, let us know who they are and how they differentiate. It's easy when one of them is a pig, but still, like it's a lot of work to balance all of that just right, to keep all those balls in the air and not drop a single one.
I love that they did shit that I never would have dreamed of, but I was like, that was perfect. It made me a better writer. I walked out of that movie and I got to write a story for Detective 1000 that Jim Lee's going to draw. And it was like, man, I got to write about Batman. Like right now, all I want to do is write about Spider-Man. But it made me go like, ooh, when I do it, I've got to up my game to this, maybe ratchet up and go a little harder than I think I would have and stuff. But little shit that I never thought of, but must be so true. In all of their universes, there must be an Aunt May.
Yeah.
Like,
and the thing that binds them all together is that they've all lost somebody dear to them. You know, it's like, you're nothing like me. No, we're all like you, Peter.
Yeah.
We're
for
all
me,
like you,
it was
Miles.
my uncle. For me, it was my Uncle Ben. And Spider-Man Noir is like, for me, it was my Uncle Benjamin. Penny Parker is like, for me, it was my father. Gwen Stacy says, for me, it was my friend. And that's Peter Parker.
Yeah. But, loss is the thing that binds them all together.
Peter Porker just weeps and says, like, the hardest thing about this job is you can't save them all. So he doesn't have for me, it was,
right.
Another
pig. For me, it's bacon.
It's weird because they show him eating hot dogs all the time.
I know,
it's like,
super weird.
Don't you get it? You're a pig. Why would you do that?
Pardon me, sir, you're a pig.
It is pure perfection, cinematic perfection, and I should be so lucky to make something so perfect one day. I won't, but it takes a village. They got a small village of people, and boy, they coalesce into something wonderful. Hats off to the writers, to the directors, to the animators, to the vocal talent, to the marketers for making me pregnant, but not like fucking belly bursting me by giving me too much, because there was so much in that movie. It was an absolute surprise to me. One of the best days that I've had at the movies in all of 2018.
Yeah, and I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, me too. There it is, folks. A review probably longer than the movie itself. That's how much we loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Indeed.
That's it. Fat Man Beyond.
We'll get there.
We will. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next time. Same fat time, same fat channel. Smodcast.com or
youtube.com/Kevin Smith.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.